Today, let's talk about 5 ways to tell if you're an INFJ or if you're an INFP. Since my channel is all about INFJs, I want to look at it from the perspective of are you an INFJ or are you probably an INFP? It doesn't mean that if you do the test and it comes out INFJ or INFP that this is what you can believe 100%. The thing that works best is always to watch videos on INFPs and INFJs and to read through the descriptions and see what is most fitting to you. Today, I want to give you 5 additional ways that might help you to distinguish between being an INFJ or being an INFP. My best friend of almost 20 years is an INFP, and we have grown through it all. All our beginning 20s where we experienced so much clash and personal growth into our, adulthood now. And so I really think I have a lot of insights on this and I want to share that with you. Before we get started, I want to remind you, if you haven't done this so far, to download the free poster on the formula to an INFJ EPIC Life. And if you want to take it to the next level, get the INFJ EPIC Life audio guide. Everything you need to know in order to start tapping into your INFJ EPIC Life, you can find in the links in the description. Number 1. What triggers you more? So one of the biggest differences that I see between INFJs and INFPs is the perception of other people. So sometimes it's hard to look at our strengths because we do have similar strengths. We're all feelers, we're intuitive feelers, right? We're introverts. So when you look from the outside or you read some descriptions, you don't really know. But let's look at the things that trigger us, the things that we're afraid of, the things that we have desires for. Those things very often will tell you the difference. So when I say what triggers you more when it comes to other people, is it more uncomfortable for you when another person believes that you're a bad person, as in you're immoral? Or does it rather bother you if another person thinks you're incompetent? So I can tell you in most cases, when an INFJ is more afraid that another person will think they're immoral when they have done something that wasn't with the best intentions, that is something that really gets to us, meaning we try to explain to the other person as INFJ that we didn't have bad intentions, that we didn't want to hurt them, that that's not what we meant, that kind of thing. So that is not something that I generally see with INFPs because they have very strong grasp of their own morals. So they are way more aware of, okay, this fits into my morals and this doesn't. And am I going to act on it or not? So they don't really try to prove to another person if they're good or bad because it's much easier for them to grasp and to see and to judge. Was I being a good person? Did I fall short of my own morals? And for us INFJs, it really comes more from a place of, I need that other person to tell me that I'm a good person. That's of course from an immature space. Hopefully, we have gotten to a place where we're more in control of that. But if you've experienced this in the past, you're more likely going to be an INFJ. The thing that INFPs rather struggle with is competence, meaning they have a problem or are afraid that people will think they don't know what they're doing, or they're not going to be able to handle a certain situation, that they're lost in the world, that they don't have what it takes to make it happen. That kind of thing. With INFJs, it's more like, well, I don't really want to take action and maybe that's my problem. But with INFPs, there is very often this feeling of, oh, people might think I'm incompetent, that I don't have what it takes to get the life that I want. So these are 2 things to look into. Is it more about, am I a good person or not? Or is it more about, I'm not competent enough, or I am? For me as an INFJ, I am very, very clear on I have way bigger problems with people thinking I did them wrong. I, didn't act in a morally high way. Way bigger problem for me than for people to think that, I just don't have what it takes. It's like, okay, let them think that. And so I think that's a really good way to distinguish between INFJs and INFPs. Sign number 2 that you're an INFJ and not an INFP. You've gotten yourself into trouble because you wanted to understand something. So what I mean by this is we as INFJs, we need to understand situations even when we don't feel good about it. So a person continuously hurts us, we might stay in the situation in order to understand why they're acting this way. What is the bigger picture here? What is going on within them? that is not a behavior an INFP is necessarily going to take. They might still allow that in order to help another person or in order to feel better in some kind of capacity, but it's not going to be for the sake of understanding. That's just not an INFP thing. So the understanding part is all about TI, our third function. I have had this discussion with my friend numerous times where she just asked me, why do you care? Why do you need to understand? That's a person that makes you feel bad. Chapter closed. And this is something I believe is much easier for INFPs to kind of like close a chapter at some point because they're much quicker judgers in a way. They can decide, okay, that's a bad person. They don't make me feel good. Cut. For us INFJs, this is something that might change. So at some moment we think that person is not good for us. And, in other situations we think, oh, but they're suffering. And so we might go left and right and like, we're not really sure. We're not really making a judgment on that. But we stay in the situation because we want to understand it. We want to have evidence of truth of how to categorize that person. It isn't coming from an internal feeling of, oh, I feel bad. That person is not good for me. Stay away. For us, it's more like I need to have some grasp of understanding that is independent of emotions so I can make a definite decision for myself how I'm going to categorize that person. That isn't a behavior that INFPs tend to do. The third way you could tell if you're an INFJ or an INFP is the question of progress. INFJs need progress in their life. They need progress in their relationships. They need progress in pursuing their purpose. They need progress in where their life is headed. So this is all about, I need to feel like things are moving. INFPs can be rather relaxed in their environment. If things are going great, they can stay in that state forever, theoretically. For us INFJs, there's always this connection with progress. We need progress. So if you believe you can stay in a state of things are not really moving, it's just happy and, it just stays this way and this doesn't make you anxious, you're more likely going to be an INFP. For us, there's always going to be something that needs to continue. There has to be a growth involved. There has to be something where we feel like, okay, I can move ahead at this job or I can grow here or, some kind of movement needs to be involved for us to feel like we are in our element. The fourth way to tell that you're an INFJ and not an INFP is if you don't have everything available for everything that might occur. Let me explain. INFPs, if they, for example, like adventures, are going to have a lot of knickknacks. They're going to have the tent ready to go if they want to go camping. They're going to have, these kind of equipments there if they want to bake one day. So it's very open. There is always this concept of if things come up, I want to be able to pursue what excites me in that moment. And I don't want there to be anything that's keeping me from that. So that's why INFPs tend to have typically more things available to them that allow them to tap into what their desire is evoking in them. Oh, I, want to bake now, so I'm going to bake. Oh, I want to, go and travel there, so I have like the backpack that I need. For us INFJs, that's not the case. We're more precise. We're going to narrow down what we want to experience. Doesn't mean that we can't experience a lot of intense emotions, but it's way more linear in its energy, as in, I don't have thousands of opportunities. I have decided for me, this is the opportunity that I'm most likely going to do. And I actually want the opportunities to be close. I don't want there to be that many open tabs and ways I could go about it. I rather want to have one path that is very clear to me that I'm going to stick to. For INFPs, that's going to be rather hard. They want to have the opportunity to be able to switch around, change things. And that's why they like to have things available to them in order to go down a road that excites them at the moment. We INFJs are introverted intuition focused. So although this is a bird's eye view, it is, laser focused into one probable path that we want to take. For INFPs, their second function is extroverted intuition. So this is more about breadth, and for INFJs, it's more about depth. So when it comes to experiences, not so much when it comes to emotions. And the fifth way to tell that you're most likely an INFJ and not an INFP is if you're future oriented. So INFPs really value memories a lot. They want to create memories, things that are constant. They want to have things in their house, in their life that reminds them of a feeling that they have cultivated over time. They like to look into memories. They like to reminisce on feeling great in the past and, trying to emulate that and live that over and over again. For us INFJs, the past is barely of any interest. It is great that it happened because we learned our lessons through it, but we're more focused on where we're going next. What is the next step in our evolution? For INFPs, it is way more about the past. It's way more about memories. It's about who they've become throughout that process and, also creating memories. So having things that allow them to store, an emotion and something that they have experienced. So an INFP is going to be, generally speaking, of course, this is stereotypes, but, on paper, they're going to be way more likely to be sad if they lose, an SD card with thousands of pictures that they made on a trip than an INFJ. Because for us, it's like, yeah, it happened. Let's move forward. Where are we going next? We're not going to really, attach our sense of self on things that we have experienced so much. Right? And we sort of rather forget those things. We learn our lesson and then become a different version of ourselves, so to say. When for INFPs, it is really a vital aspect, what they've experienced. That in itself is a vital aspect of who they are and how they see themselves. So I hope those 5 ways helped you to determine further if you're an INFJ or an INFP. If you'd like me to do more videos of this kind, let me know in the comments. And remember, if you want to take to the next step in creating your INFJ epic life, then check out the poster on the formula to an INFJ epic life and get the audio guide to start taking action today. Everything you need to know you can find in the links in the description. And if you want to watch another video now that is in alignment with today's topic, then check out the video you see on the screen right now. I'll see you in the next one. Bye, guys.